Zimbabwe cash crisis
worse. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on here called monetary awareness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some RTD News updates. And so we're only 4 days into the new year, and already we have news about countries deciding to remove themselves or rethink the dollar, or aka dump the dollar. And so here I have President Xi as well as Mahmoud Hussein, the president of Pakistan, shaking hands. It all has to do with the fact that recently Donald Trump made some statements via Twitter. And so the country decided to basically drop the dollar for international trade and pick up the Yuan as a primary medium of exchange to use in trade. So this is some interesting things that will definitely become more mainstream as the year goes on, as more countries begin to follow suit, as well as I have articles on Angola deciding to unpeg their currency, the kwanza, from the dollar, as well as the prices of their currency continue to rise and the dollar weakens. So as always, before I dive into those articles, I want to encourage you to visit the RTD University page, where I put together all my prior interviews dealing with monetary matters, dealing with currency matters, dealing with precious metals, as well as if you're new to RTD, click the subscribe button with the notification tab to be informed of the next time I have a RTD live talk, interview, as well as a news update. So let's dive into today's articles. So the very first article here is from CNBC, and it came out a couple hours ago, and it says Pakistan is ditching the dollar for trade with China 24 hours after Trump denounced the country. And the next one here is from The Guardian. It says Pakistan summons U.S. ambassador over Trump's lies and deceit tweet. And the next one here is from the Financial Times, and it says Angola plans to ditch currency peg to the dollar and restructure its debt. And then the very last one here has to do with the idea of what a weaker dollar means for you and I. And this is from the Chicago Tribune, and it says what a weak dollar means in 2018, staycations and local shopping. So as always, before I dive any further to these articles, I want to encourage you to take the time to basically read some of these articles for yourself so that you can get a more well-rounded understanding of what's going on. I just plan on scanning the surface as quickly as I can so that you guys have an understanding of what's happening in the news, things you really won't hear much about on the mainstream media, and more importantly, how these type of articles right here and the decisions being made on your behalf around this globe will impact the dollar in ways that we have no way of really truly understanding at this point in time. So as always, I'm going to share my thoughts at the very end of this news update. And then as always, if you find this informative, I want to encourage you to share this information, at least share an article or something with your family and friends so they can begin becoming aware of what's happening around them when it comes to our monetary and financial matters. So let's dive into the very first one. So here we have Pakistan ditching the dollar for trade. So as you see, the two gentlemen to my right shaking hands, says just 24 hours after President Donald Trump took an aim at Pakistan on Twitter, the South Asian nation already appears to be cozying up to the world's second largest economy. So once again, this event right here of, as he's saying, cozying up with the world's second largest economy is nothing new. It just so happens that this ended up being a trigger that led to this decision making, which was already well underway. So don't be mistaken in thinking this is like something that happened out of the blue. This was already waiting and ready to happen. It says a day after the U.S. leaders slammed Islamabad for harboring terrorists in a New Year's Eve Day tweet, Pakistan's central bank announced that it will be replacing the dollar with the yuan for bilateral trade and investment with Beijing. So you mean to tell me a simple tweet would be the reason why you would break up international trade as far as Pakistan deciding to no longer withhold or hold in the capital reserves the dollar in exchange for the yuan? Not really. So the same day, Chinese Foreign Minister spokesman Jing Shang defended Islamabad's counterterrorism track record, saying the country made great efforts and sacrifices for combating terrorism, and urged that the international community to fully recognize this. Says China has been watching closely as U.S.-Pakistan relations become increasingly strained, since Trump has long demanded the frontier economy to do more on counterterrorism, while he simultaneously grew closer to its arch rival, India. Then it was quoted as saying, Pakistan and the U.S. have had a fraught relationship for years, but the big change recently has been with China, said Simon Baptist, Asian Regional Director and economist at the Economist Intelligence Unit. China has already gone hard in cementing its existing relationship with Pakistan. It's really the only place that's seen significant investment under the Belt and Road Initiative, and China has been pushing for a geopolitical advantage there, End of quote. So just to give you an idea of what that actually means directly. So the idea that the Belt and Road Initiative is already underway. China has been working on that for several years now. And so Pakistan is a member or a country that is along that pathway where China plans on initiating trade in that region. And so as of now, or up until this point, Pakistan was for the most part dependent upon doing trade with other nations in the dollar. So this tweet happened to be the catalyst that was the pin that pricked the bubble that allowed the Pakistan central bank to say, hey, we're no longer going to use dollars. We're going to use our own currency so we can trade amongst one another. And so basically this right here is just an event that was already ready to happen. It just so happened that a tweet sparked the interest for them to do it now, but yet it was already planned, I'm sure, to happen at the beginning of the year. So when you read stuff like that, or when I read stuff like that, I look at the greater meaning behind it, which means that this was already ready to occur. It's just happening right now for whatever reason. So here's the next article from The Guardian, and this is all about President Trump's tweet. It says, Pakistan summons U.S. ambassador over Trump's lies and deceit tweet. It says, diplomat asked to explain U.S. president's comments accusing the country of taking aid but failing to help fight terrorism. Pakistan has summoned the U.S. ambassador in a rare public rebuke after Donald Trump lashed out to cut aid over lies and deceit about militancy. It says Pakistan's Foreign Office summoned David Hale on Monday to explain the U.S. president's comments, according to media reports. A spokesman for the U.S. embassy in Islamabad confirmed the meeting took place. It says in a weathering attack, Trump tweeted on Monday that the U.S. had foolishly handed Pakistan more than $33 billion in aid in the last 15 years and had been rewarded with nothing but lies and deceit. It was quoted saying, they give safe haven to terrorists we hunt in Afghanistan with little help, no more. So basically saying that because this whole war on terror, Pakistan has been an aid as opposed to a fighter against terrorism. Donald Trump basically tweeted out and ran his mouth, and so which was the trigger that led to this change in Pakistan dumping the dollar for the yuan. More on that if you're interested. Next one from Financial Times says Angola plans to ditch currency pegged to the dollar and restructure its debt. So the idea that the dollar is weakening right now, or has been weakening in regards to other currencies outside more likely second, third world currencies have been appreciating, which makes it very difficult for them to pay their debts, and it puts a greater burden on their country to repay the debts they have in regards to all the dollar denominated debts. And so here, to give you an idea what's going on, it says Angola has announced plans to ditch its currency pegged to the dollar and restructure its debt, becoming the latest previously high-flying African country to bite the default bullet. Said Jose Lima Massano, the central bank governor, and Archer Manguera, the country's finance minister, announced at press conference on Wednesday that Angola, the continent's second biggest oil exporter after Nigeria, would have to shift to a currency trading ban and renegotiate its debts, according to Wire Post. So it gives some more information there as far as the actual peg in and of itself. But ultimately, the fact that the dollar, it's weakening, which makes it hard for countries to continue to support their own currency against a currency that is causing major harm in their country. So they need to delink that peg to the dollar, let it float freely so they can find a true discovery, which will ultimately help them out as they go through this default situation and try to restructure their debt, which will be very hard because at the end of the day, no one wants Angola currency. So we'll see how that plans out. And then the very last one here is from the Chicago Tribune, and it has to do with the weaker dollar. It says what a weaker dollar means in 2018. So it shows someone at the pump there, which lets you know that gas prices are sure to climb. But I'll give you an idea what's going on here. It says U.S. consumers may soon begin to feel some pain from the dollar's downturn. Although the recent slide in the world's main reserve currency isn't bad news for everyone in America. It says the greenback has dropped 8% in 2017 and is on track for its first annual decline in 5 years. It weakened after U.S. tax changes aimed at spurring growth were slow to materialize, and lackluster inflation weighed on the longer-term trajectory for interest rates, even the Federal Reserve tightening policy. So the idea that the Fed plans on tightening in the midst of the fact they're not having the type of inflation they want, there's going to be problems. Since for householders, that means the earlier benefits of currency strength are likely to dissipate. On the flip side, local businesses could gain, especially if they're exporters, and that could boost the economy as a whole. We have costlier imports. So the fact that our currency is weakening, which makes it better for us to send stuff out, but to receive things in is going to be a little bit more costly. So it says U.S. shoppers might not be so cheery. It says while European consumers may be loading up on American imports, overseas goods have become more costly for people in the U.S. to buy. It says consumer purchasing power will be lower, so they will feel a slight pinch, said Minch Trang, senior foreign exchange trader at Silicon Valley Bank in California. So talks about foreign vacations. If you're an American who is actually going abroad to Europe or elsewhere, there is no denying that your spending power will be reduced, and a weaker dollar will encourage home tourism and discourage consumers from vacationing abroad. Next one here, higher gas prices. Unfortunately, any plans locals might have for U.S. road trips and other household expenditures could be curtailed by more expensive fuel. So that's kind of what's happening in the news in regards to the dollar in a nutshell. As always, as I mentioned, I want to encourage you to read some of that for yourself so you can get a better idea of what's going on in greater detail. But this move here with China and Pakistan shaking hands on bypassing the dollar is just one more nail in the coffin that will play out more throughout this year, whereas nations begin to really remove themselves from depending upon the dollar. So ultimately, this leads into the idea of a weaker dollar becoming a lot more of a problem for us here locally, as we will see prices increase. And so that plays it right along with the Fed's desire for inflation. So the idea that Trump wanted a weaker dollar is not a surprise at all. So other than that, I hope all is well. Let me know your thoughts on this information. I would love to find out more. If you have any news that you want me to comment on, feel free to share it with me. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to bringing you more news. Have a good day.